final project, Kimberlé Crenshaw, by Jaden Kirshner. So, which Black feminist scholar did I choose? The Black feminist scholar I chose to focus on for my final project was Kimberlé Crenshaw. So why did I choose her? I chose Kimberlé because I've studied her a lot in the past classes that I've taken, like my intro to gender, race, class, and sex, and I've also talked about her in my Black history class. She is such an empowering force in Black feminist theory. She is also the one who coined the term intersectionality, and as well as founded the field of critical race theory. So what's her educational background? So she attended Canton McKinley High School. She received a bachelor's degree in government and Africana studies from Cornell University in 1981. She was a member of the Quill and Dagger Senior Honor Society. She received a JD from Harvard Law School in 1984. She received an LLM from the University of Wisconsin Law School. She was a William H. Hastie Fellow, and she was also a law clerk to the Wisconsin Supreme Court Judge Shirley Abramson. So what does her research focus on? Kimberlé's research has been foundational in both critical race theory and Black feminist legal theory, as well as intersectionality. Intersectionality is a term she had coined, which describes the concept of simultaneous racial and gender prejudice. She focuses on the structural and political aspects of intersectionality with regards to domestic abuse and sexual assault. She uses this particular analysis of violence, mainly against women of color, to bring attention to the absolute importance of intersectionality itself, as well as engaging with these issues of violence through an intersectional lens. She looks at intersectionality as something that is important to prevent the erasure of these identities. She states that it is important to focus on people of color within the LGBTQ movements as well. So Kimberlé's research also focuses on critical race theory. Kimberlé breaks down critical race theory as being the fact that race is socially constructed but is real through social constructions. Labels that produce a harmful stereotype, like the hood, are strategically constructed by American policies. Critical race theory recites that the idea of even being a Black person is but a legal concept. She states on multiple occasions that enslavability was a marker of Black person degradation and that Black women will never actually be a part of this country. Intersectionality actually grew out of critical race theory. Since its origin, intersectionality has become a pillar of critical race theory. Theories like critical race theory help in the ongoing battle of sexism in a profoundly racist society. One way she's aligned her research with Black feminism. In 20 years of critical race theory, Crenshaw explains that critical race theory grew from the misalignment over the scope of race and racism in both institutionalized and political environments in the 1980s. Each group thought that they were embracing racial equality, but really, conflicts over different issues were addressed and projects were centered brought marginal differences between allied groups into sharp focus. Early critical race theory was an effort to inventory these differences, including the varying interventions and claims that they produced. According to Crenshaw, quote, this process, in turn, created the conditions for the emergence of a particular articulation of racial power, one that eschewed the reigning frames that worked to reduce racism to matters of individual prejudice or a byproduct of class, end quote. Another way Crenshaw has aligned her research with Black feminism. In Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, a Black feminist critique of anti-discrimination doctrine, feminist theory, and anti-racist politics, Crenshaw explained that Black women and white women experience discrimination differently, because Black women share both a similar experience as Black men and as other women to create a unique discriminatory situation. Their experience is like double discrimination, as in it's the combination of discrimination based on race and discrimination based on sex. She goes on to explain that, quote, the value of feminist theory to Black women is diminished because it evolves from a white racial context that is seldom acknowledged, end quote. When white women are the representations for all women, women of color are more than just overlooked. They can further be excluded from the conversation. When the experiences of women are analyzed through a lens of patriarchy and sexuality, the lens of race to those experiences is completely overlooked. And another way, her research aligns with Black feminism. In Why Intersectionality Can't Wait, Crenshaw speaks heavily about how racial and gender discrimination is prominent in all areas of life, not just in the workplace, and how these experiences are nowhere near to be found in feminism or even anti-racist advocacy. Her attempt at a solution to this was intersectionality. Intersectionality was her way to make the wrong seen in feminism, anti-racist activism, and anti-discrimination laws actually help more than they already did. It was pushed out as a way for these other experiences in other walks of life to be discussed and understood. Intersectionality looks at identity in relation to power, as well as bring light to institutions that use identity to exclude and privilege. Crenshaw explains that any social movements that are being built today must be intersectional to be successful. She states that, quote, the intersectional experience is greater than the sum of racism and sexism. Any analysis that does not take intersectionality into account cannot sufficiently address the particular manner in which Black women are subordinated. Neither Black liberation movements nor feminist movements can ignore the intersectional experiences of their respective members. So, how does her work reflect elements within Black feminism? Crenshaw's early academic work was an important building block in the development of critical race theory. It actually revolutionized the understanding of race in the United States legal system, and it is taught in law schools across the country. Her work in Black feminist legal theory includes the applied concepts of both intersectionality, which I mentioned, and critical race theory, which I talked about as well. In many of her works, she explicitly details the circumstances of feminism not directly opposing racism, as well as when anti-racist situations don't include the opposition to race, gender, and the patriarchy. Both of them lose in the end. She's also spoken about how in the 20th and 21st centuries, Black feminism now includes more radical ideals and focuses more on queer and trans Black peoples of all sexualities within the LGBT community, and that now they are different in economic, social, and political worlds, which is a huge step. So, how does her work compare to our course readings that we learned throughout the class? In her Columbia Law School professor profile, it actually says that she focuses on the structural and political aspects of intersectionality with regards to domestic abuse and sexual assault. In our course reading titled The Sexual Politics of Black Womanhood, the first paragraph talks about the movie The Color Purple, and how it's about a Black woman named Cecile recounting her struggles with being sexually abused by her father when she was only a young girl and how it has affected her. Cecile does find ways to overcome her past trauma by forming relationships with older Black women. The paragraph goes in to say that although Cecile in the movie was able to speak freely and without fear about her own experiences and was also believed, this is definitely not the case with Black women in today's society who actually find this to be virtually impossible to talk about or share their own stories and actually have them believed. Also, in Module 5, one of our course readings was actually a journal article written by Crenshaw herself, titled Mapping the Margins, Intersectionality, Identity Politics, and Violence Against Women of Color. For example, in this article, Crenshaw talks about how she used intersectionality to denote the ways that race and gender interact to form various employment experiences that Black women experience. Comparing the course readings continued. In Crenshaw's article titled Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, a Black Feminist Critique of Anti-Discrimination Doctrine, Feminist Theory, and Anti-Racist Politics, she talks about the fact that how feminist theory describes women's experiences by analyzing patriarchy, sexuality, and separate spheres ideology. This often overlooks the role that race plays into these categories. In one of our readings from Module 3, titled Politics of Black Feminist Thought, it talks about how the tension with oppression in Black women's ideas with their intellectual activism represents the politics of U.S. Black feminist thought, and coming to understand this relationship is crucial with the U.S. Black feminist thought at its core themes. This is my bibliography and the end of my project. Thank you.